Have you ever stopped to think about how much of what we were taught in school actually stuck with us? The little phrases that get burned into your brain, like hands at 10 and 2, tilt your head back if your nose bleeds, or stand in the doorway during an earthquake. Those lessons sounded safe, they felt official, and they came from adults we trusted. But here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of that advice isn't just outdated. It can be flat out dangerous. Imagine this. You're driving down the highway, gripping the wheel at 10 and 2 just like your driving instructor told you, when suddenly the airbag deploys. Those perfectly placed hands? They slam right into your face. Or picture a kid on the playground who gets a nosebleed. A well-meaning teacher tilts their head back, and now the child is swallowing blood instead of letting it drain. These aren't harmless little quirks. They're mistakes that could make an emergency worse. The craziest part? Most of us never stop to question these things. We carry them into adulthood, pass them down to kids, and treat them like common sense. But common sense is only common until the evidence proves otherwise. So in this video, we're diving into 9 lessons we were all taught in school that turned out to be dangerously wrong. Some are funny, some are frustrating, and some will genuinely make you shake your head and wonder how we ever believed them. By the end, you'll not only know what's wrong with the old myths, you'll know what to do instead. And just to be crystal clear, this is educational content. I'm not a doctor or a safety instructor, and nothing here replaces professional guidance. But if you've ever wanted to double-check the so-called truths you grew up with, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. 1. The driving myth. Hands at 10 and 2. If you learn to drive in the United States, chances are your instructor drilled one thing into your head. Keep your hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, like the hands of a clock. It sounded smart, it looked balanced, and for decades it was the gold standard. But here's the problem. Cars changed, and so did safety features. Back when that advice became popular, airbags didn't exist. Today, every car is built with them, and the moment they deploy, those hands sitting way up high on the wheel can get smashed right into your face. Broken noses, shattered glasses, even wrist fractures. It happens in a split second. So what's the safer way? Experts now recommend positioning your hands lower, at 9 and 3, or even 8 and 4. That way, when the airbag explodes outward, your arms don't become a projectile aimed at your own head. It feels a little weird at first, especially if you've been gripping the wheel the old-school way for years. But once you try it, you realize it gives you more control and less fatigue on long drives. And honestly, who doesn't want to stay safe while stuck in traffic? 2. The nosebleed mistake. Tilt your head back. Remember being told to lean your head back when your nose started bleeding? Teachers, parents, even camp counselors gave that advice with total confidence. But here's the catch. Tilting your head back doesn't stop the bleeding. It just redirects it. Instead of dripping out of your nose, the blood goes down your throat. That can make you cough, choke, or even vomit. Not exactly a win. The safer move is surprisingly simple. Sit upright, lean slightly forward, and pinch the soft part of your nose, right below the bone, using steady pressure for about 10 minutes. No peeking, no constant checking to see if it's working. Just hold. This lets the blood vessels clamp down and the flow slow naturally. You might look a little silly sitting there hunched forward, pinching your face like a cartoon character, but it works. And trust me, it beats swallowing a mouthful of blood any day. 3. The baby choking myth. Use the Heimlich. This one feels terrifying because it's about infants. Somewhere along the way, people got the idea that if a baby chokes, you should do the Heimlich maneuver. The same belly thrust you'd use on an adult. But babies aren't tiny adults. Their ribs and organs are way too fragile, and a full-on Heimlich can cause serious injury. So what actually helps? If a baby is choking, the recommended response is gentle but effective. Place the infant face down on your forearm, with the head slightly lower than the chest. Support their head and neck, then give a few firm back blows between the shoulder blades. If that doesn't clear the airway, turn the baby over and use 2 fingers to give small chest thrusts, right in the center of the chest. It's quick, controlled, and far safer than trying adult techniques on a tiny body. It might not look as dramatic as in the movies, but it's what could save a child's life. 4. The earthquake doorway. Myth. For decades, the go-to earthquake advice was, stand in the doorway. Supposedly, the frame was the strongest part of a house, so you'd be safe there. Sounds logical, right? Except, in modern construction, doorways aren't magically reinforced. They swing, they can collapse, and worst of all, they leave you totally exposed to falling objects. A bookshelf doesn't care that you're in a doorway. It'll still knock you flat. The safer move during an earthquake is much clearer. Drop down, get under a sturdy table or desk, and hold on until the shaking stops. Protect your head and neck. Stay away from glass or heavy things that can topple. It's not about looking heroic in a doorway. It's about making sure you're not crushed by your own furniture. 5. The tornado window. Myth. If you grew up in tornado country, you might have heard this gem. Open the windows before a tornado to equalize pressure. It spread like wildfire in old safety manuals. The idea was that pressure changes would blow your house apart if the windows were shut. Here's the reality. Tornadoes don't politely care about your windows. The wind itself is strong enough to rip walls and roofs clean off. Opening the windows only invites debris and flying glass inside, putting you in more danger. So what should you do instead? Get to the lowest level of your home, preferably a basement or storm shelter. No basement? Find an interior room, bathroom, closet, somewhere without windows. Cover yourself with a mattress or heavy blanket and stay put. The safest move isn't messing with windows, it's getting as far away from them as possible. 6. The duck and cover illusion. If you've ever seen those black and white civil defense films from the Cold War, you probably remember the cheerful turtle cartoon teaching kids to duck and cover under their desks in case of a nuclear blast. It was presented like a magic shield. Just hide under the table and you'll be fine. But let's be real. No school desk in history has the power to stop the heat wave, shock wave, and radiation of a nuclear explosion. At best, ducking might protect you from shattered glass or falling ceiling tiles if you were far enough away. But against the actual blast, it's almost useless. What it does show is how fear shaped education. Schools needed to give children something to do, so they created a ritual that felt protective, even if it wasn't. It's a sobering reminder that sometimes, safety lessons are more about calming people down than actually saving lives. 7. The D.A.R.E. backfire. In the 1980s and 1990s, D.A.R.E. was everywhere in American schools. Police officers came into classrooms, handed out glossy booklets, and told kids, just say no. It looked like the perfect solution to the drug problem. Parents loved it, politicians praised it, and the D.A.R.E. logo showed up on t-shirts across the country. But years later, researchers dug into the results and found something disturbing. Kids who went through the program weren't necessarily less likely to try drugs. In some cases, they were actually more curious. Why? Because the program often talked about drugs in such detail that it sparked interest instead of preventing it. The oversimplified message didn't match reality, and teenagers picked up on the gap. D.A.R.E. is a classic example of how good intentions in education can backfire when the method doesn't match human psychology. 8. The college or poverty myth. All through high school, one message gets hammered in. If you don't go to college, you'll end up broke. Guidance counselors, teachers, even commercials on TV repeat it like gospel. And sure, college can open doors. But here's the twist. It isn't the only door. Skilled trades like electricians, plumbers, welders, or tech specialists can earn solid incomes, sometimes more than degree holders, and often without crushing student debt. The problem with the old message is that it paints life as a binary. Degree equals success, no degree equals failure. Reality is way more nuanced. The job market values skills, adaptability, and persistence. And let's be honest, no one should take on $80,000 in loans just to prove they're not poor. Success has more than one path, and schools should have told us that. 9. The stranger danger myth. Don't talk to strangers. That phrase echoed across playgrounds for decades. It was meant to keep kids safe, but it planted the wrong picture. The truth is, most cases of child abuse or abduction don't come from shadowy strangers. They come from people the child already knows. A neighbor, a family friend, even a relative. The focus on strangers made kids suspicious of the wrong threat, while leaving them vulnerable to the real one. That's why many safety experts now use the term tricky people instead. A tricky person isn't defined by whether you know them or not. It's defined by their behavior. Do they ask a child to keep secrets? Do they ignore boundaries? Do they try to get a child alone? Those are the warning signs kids need to recognize. Teaching that makes them safer in the real world than a blanket fear of strangers ever could. When you look back at these 9 schoolhouse lessons, it's almost funny and a little unsettling how easily bad information can stick. A teacher says it, a poster hangs in the hallway, a safety drill happens once a year, and suddenly it becomes truth. We carry it into adulthood without ever asking, does this still make sense? The reality is, knowledge isn't static. Cars evolve, medicine improves, psychology advances, and what once felt like good advice can turn into a liability. But here's the hopeful part. Unlearning is just as powerful as learning. Every time we let go of an outdated myth, we make room for better, safer, smarter choices. So maybe the bigger lesson isn't just about nosebleeds or tornadoes. Maybe it's about staying curious, staying flexible, and being willing to question what we've been told. After all, the world doesn't stand still. Why should our understanding of it? If you found yourself nodding along, realizing you believed some of these myths too, you're not alone. We all did. But now that you know better, share this video with someone you care about. It might save them from making the same mistakes. Drop a comment below and tell me, which lesson shocked you the most? I'd love to hear your story. And of course, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into the strange truths we were never taught in school.